Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. And guys, today I am here to review Dune Part 2 on 4K. That is right, guys. I have got an early review copy of Dune Part 2 on 4K. This comes out on May the 14th and from Warner Brothers. And look at that, guys. Look at that artwork. You got all the floating heads with the sandworm down there. But yeah, we're going to dive into all aspects of this release here today. I'm going to talk about the movie itself because I did not see this movie in the theaters. I know everybody in the comment section, everybody that's watching is going to gasp when I say that. Ken, you got to see Dune Part 2 in the theaters. What are you thinking? Well, you know what? I didn't see the first one in the theaters either. I waited until, actually, I think I watched it on HBO Max because it was in that time where Warner Brothers was releasing stuff simultaneously on HBO Max in the theaters. Look, guys, I'm just to that point in my life. I got 2 kids and I can't get out very much. So if you're going to put a movie on streaming, I'm going to watch it on there probably versus go to the theaters if I already have the streaming service. And then I watched this 4K fairly recently to brush up before I saw Dune Part 2 because my wife and I was going to go see this in the theaters. And then we just didn't have time. We couldn't make the plans to go out and see it. So I had to wait to get this 4K in. I feel like this movie, though, is actually like, because this was a really quick turnaround. I think this 4K is coming out like within 2 months that this came out in the theaters. So I'm sure that this movie's maybe still in some theaters. It's still showing. So you may be able to go out and see it in theaters as of right now. But anyway, that's beside the point. We're going to talk about the movie itself because I just watched it this morning for the first time. We're going to talk about the 4K picture quality, of course, the controversy surrounding the IMAX, and I'm going to get into the bonus features as well. But before we do that, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, like this video, and then comment down below, guys. Did you see Dune Part 2 in the theaters? What did you think of it? Let me know in that comment section below. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it, guys. So Dune Part 2, this is, of course, directed by Denis Villeneuve and starring Timothée Chalamet. It's got Zendaya, it's got Austin Butler, it's got Batista, it's got Josh Brolin. Like there's a lot. Rebecca Ferguson. There's a lot of people in this movie. Florence Pugh, Anya Taylor-Joy. Like the list goes on and on. This is maybe one of the most well-cast movies that has come out in quite some time. Like there are so many people. Christopher Walken is in this freaking movie. Like I was going crazy when I saw Christopher Walken here, but so many. Javier Bardem. I'm just gonna keep listing off people that are in this movie because it's so many people that's in Dune Part 2. And this is a direct continuation of the first Dune. So I'm not going to get into too much of the plot, guys, because for one, I'm terrible at explaining plots and everything. Then for another, I don't know if people have seen, if everybody's seen the first Dune, which you definitely should. It's a really good movie. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything. So I'm not going to get into like plot specifics or anything like that. Anyway, Dune Part 2. Let me get into my complicated history with Dune. So I actually read the book Dune, I feel like when I was like 20, and I don't remember too much about it at all. I also played a PC game. It was like a Command and Conquer type PC game when I was a kid. So I was familiar with like the houses, like House Harkonnen and House Atreides, and the Fremen and all that kind of stuff. So I was familiar with the characters and the world, just not so much the story until I read the book. And to be honest, like I watching this movie, like I completely forgot about the book and all the characters and the plot points. Like I knew Paul Atreides, but that was pretty much it. David Lynch's Dune, I kind of like, and I know that's probably not the most popular opinion, and I don't think it's a great movie. I just think it's kind of fun to watch, and it's an interesting watch. I'll just say that it's not a great movie, but it's an interesting watch, and it kind of does get pretty hilarious towards the end when they ride sandworms in this movie, I believe. But it's really hilarious and hokey when they do it in David Lynch's Dune. But that is a great 4K, though. I will say the one that Arrow Video did is a phenomenal 4K of Dune, David Lynch's Dune. But anyway, I didn't like this movie very much when I first watched it. I watched it on HBO Max, and I think I was just very tired, and I just wasn't into it because these movies don't move quick. They're very slow. They're very plotting. They're very meandering. And I don't want to say meandering as in it's a bad thing, because I think that there is a place for world building here. And that's what these movies are doing. They're building the world. They're really immersing you in this experience, with both of these films. So I don't think it's a bad thing to have a movie like that. But I think I just wasn't into it when I watched this for the first time. Now, I rewatched this a couple of months ago, right before the second one came out, and I liked it quite a bit more. I got more into the characters. The visuals are incredible. The world building is incredible. Like, they feel like actual films. Like, they just feel so big and grand and epic. But I just wasn't into the characters. I just couldn't get into the characters. The performances are all great. I just couldn't engage with the characters. If I can't engage with the characters, if I can't care about the characters, then I have a problem. Whereas when I watched for the second time, I really got into Timothée Chalamet's performance as Paul Atreides. Really liked him as a character. And I got into Rebecca Ferguson, and I loved Oscar Isaac in this movie as well. So I just really got caught up in the story when I watched this for the second time. So going into Dune Part 2, I had high hopes because I felt like I had the foundation. I felt like I was in the right position to enjoy this movie, and I did enjoy this movie. What I will say is this movie has the same problem for me that the first one does, but it's in reverse. Like, I think this movie, when it gets going, it's great, but it takes a very long time to get going. Does this need to be 2 hours and 45 minutes? I don't think it does, and that's maybe my biggest problem with it. Now, I get, like I said, world building, character building, building to these moments. I don't mind a slow burn, but it has to feel like it has purpose, and I don't feel like every moment in this film has purpose, that it needs to be there. It's still a really good movie, and the visuals are just outstanding. I've loved Denis Villeneuve since I saw, I think it was Enemy. I think Enemy was the first film of his that I saw, but I freaking loved that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. Saw Prisoners, loved that movie. Arrival, I saw that in the theaters, and I was in tears by the time we got to the end of that movie. That was such a magical movie experience for me. That movie moved me to no end. Whereas these movies don't really have that effect on me. Even though I'm engaging more with the characters, they still don't quite have that effect on me that a movie like Arrival did. Blade Runner 2049, saw that in the theaters, loved it. Such a great film. So Denis Villeneuve, Sicario, I almost forgot about Sicario. Fantastic movie. I know he's done Incendies, and I need to check that one out. I haven't checked that one out yet. But so when he got to Dune, I had high hopes. And to me, like, he delivers on a filmmaking, from a filmmaking perspective. But he just doesn't bring that same energy to his characters that I feel like he did in his previous movies. Like, I just felt so much more engrossed and immersed in the story and the characters in his earlier films than I do in these movies. And maybe that goes back to the source material. And I'm sure as a filmmaker, he's having a ball doing this stuff because he's living his dream and he's making some of these movies that he's probably been thinking about making his entire life. So I'm happy for Denis. I really am. And I know this movie made a lot of money. So I'm really happy for him as a filmmaker to get to be doing what he loves. But selfishly, I want some of those smaller independent movies that he was doing, 10 years ago. But I did like this movie a lot. I really did. It is very epic. I think Austin Butler as the villain is really freaking good in this movie. And him and Timothée Chalamet have a hell of a showdown at the end that I really enjoyed. Like I said, this movie, it builds and it builds and it builds. And like the final hour of the movie is like nonstop, like action and set piece moments. And it's incredible. But it just takes a little bit to get to that point. Not a little bit, an hour and 45 minutes to get to that point, to get to where it really takes off. But it's incredible. It's an incredible film. It's an achievement. It's a visual, masterpiece. Now getting into the actual visuals, guys, look, I don't really review a ton of modern films because usually these movies, they're shot in 4K and they already look great. Like, it probably looks really good on streaming, and the Blu-ray probably looks great as well. But in 4K, of course, it's going to look better. It's just you don't notice that distinct difference that you do with a restoration, like a movie you've been watching your entire life, or maybe you're watching it for the first time, but like you notice such a difference from that Blu-ray to that 4K, whereas the more modern films, it's like, yeah, the Blu-ray and the 4K, they look pretty similar. And I believe that the Blu-ray also does have the Dolby Atmos as well. But of course, this is a native 4K. You got Dolby Vision, you got HDR10, and it looks incredible. I mean, it really does. Like, this movie is such a visual feast for the eyes. So like, and all that's just showing on screen, like they're just letting all the visuals hang out this entire film, like the planet of Arrakis, the desert, the sands, all of the incredible like space vehicles and ships and the sandworms themselves. Like, there's so many incredible visuals all throughout the film. And it all looks great in 4K. There's such sharp detail. Like even the close-ups when they're just sitting in the sand, the camera's kind of zooming in on their faces. You can just make out every single distinct detail and all the facial features. And all that stuff looks absolutely fantastic. It's just such sharp detail. And Warner Brothers, thank God, had the good sense to put this. And I didn't doubt that they would, because it's such a massive film and it's almost 3 hours long. But they had the good sense to put this on a 100 gigabyte disc, so you don't have to worry about that. There's no compression issues or anything like that. it just looks outstanding. Outstanding. The colors are great with that HDR. There's a sequence in this movie that I don't know exactly if they just switched it to black and white or if the aesthetic of the movie was supposed to be black and white, but it's like a Coliseum sequence where Austin Butler's like fighting a bunch of dudes gladiator mode, and so they're like switching back and forth. There's a little bit of color, but it's like mostly black and white. And that looked freaking awesome. Like that entire sequence looked so good in 4K with that HDR. Just really making those blacks super inky and those whites super bright. And that contrast was just excellent. So much detail in that. So phenomenal. It's just a phenomenal 4K. It's like if you're going to get Dune, yeah, the Blu-ray probably looks pretty damn good. But the 4K, like you got to go with the 4K for a movie like this because you're going to get the best possible picture that you can possibly get. Now, getting into the controversy, the aspect ratio. This was in IMAX in the theaters. I did not see this in IMAX. Now, I imagine it was a shifting aspect ratio, shifting back and forth between IMAX and the widescreen, the 239:1. So a lot of people were upset that we were not going to get the IMAX experience at home, which I made an entire video about this. And a lot of people pushed back on me a little bit. And they're like, Ken, we don't have IMAX screens in our house. So what does it matter? I understand that, but you are missing part of that picture. You're going to have the black bars on the side, of course, but you are missing part of the actual picture. If it's supposed to be shifting back and forth between the aspect ratio of 239:1, the widescreen, and the IMAX aspect ratio, you're missing that because it's cutting it off. If it's just widescreen and it's supposed to be shifting that to IMAX, you're missing part of that screen. Now, is it that big of a deal for me personally? Probably not, but you're missing some of those visuals. And this is a very visual movie. It's a movie that you want to be able to see everything that you possibly can. So the fact that they don't incorporate that in a home viewing experience is kind of crappy. It just is. And I mean, Christopher Nolan, when they do 4Ks for him, and I think Warner Brothers has done some of his 4Ks in IMAX at home, they do it for him. So why wouldn't they do it for Denis Villeneuve? And I actually heard that Denis Villeneuve was in an interview talking about this, and he talked about how it was going to have the IMAX. So it's clear that Denis doesn't even know what the hell's going on with his own movies on home video. So that's interesting in and of itself. But Oppenheimer, same thing, IMAX aspect ratio shifting, and that looked great, absolutely great on 4K. And you didn't miss out on a square inch of picture with that because you had the IMAX at home. I get it. We don't have IMAX at home. Maybe somebody does, a huge mansion. Maybe you have an IMAX theater, but we don't have that at home. I get that, but you are missing out on that picture. But visually, guys, it's fantastic as far as just the actual visuals themselves, how the actual 4K looks. It's outstanding, great picture quality like you would expect out of a movie like this for sure. Now, getting into the audio, you have Dolby Atmos, you have Dolby True HD here, 7.1. You also have an option for English Dolby Digital 5.1 as well if you want to switch it to the 5.1. Now, I'm listening to this on a soundbar that kind of simulates that Dolby Atmos. I've got the subwoofer. It sounds excellent, guys. It really did. I made sure to watch this in the daytime instead of at night because I didn't want to wake anybody in my house up. So I watched it this morning. I turned that sucker way up as high as it can go, and my walls were shaking watching this movie. And I just got the sound bar with the subwoofer. Like, if you got that full Atmos setup, like, it is crazy how immersive the audio is for this release right here. So I cannot say enough good things about it. I mean, you got the ships taking off and the fight sequences and the sandworms, guys. When those sandworms are coming, like, you feel that. So I thought the audio was just outstanding. And if you had that full setup, you are going to be really, really happy with this audio experience for sure. Now, getting into a little bit of an unboxing real quick. I did a short unboxing on the channel a couple of days ago, but if you didn't see that, I'll show you I like the artwork, though. I do like the artwork. I like how they fold it into the banner up here at the top. Now, as you can see, there's only a 4K here. There's not a Blu-ray. We'll get into that here in a second. But on the back, you got the synopsis. You got all the pictures. You got the specs down there. If you guys want to, if I want to zoom in on that, so you guys can check that out. And then we'll take it out of the slipcover. But really nice slipcover. Really nice slipcover. I like the spine on it as well. And we got the actual 4K case here underneath. Flip that on the back, open it up. You do get a digital code, which I did redeem. For the first time, I redeemed a digital code. I've never done that before. Never done that before, but I had to for this release, but we'll get into that here in a second. And then you just got the 4K disc on the inside with some disc art on it, which is pretty cool. I appreciate that Warner Brothers does disc art on their releases. All right, guys, let's get into the special features. For me, this is the most controversial thing about this release. Now, what I will say is that all the features are included with this release as long as you download the digital code. But if you wanted all of the special features on the actual disc itself, you're not going to get that. So now the ones that you do have on the disc, there are actually 8 special features. You get Chak Obasa training, you get creating the Fremen world, you get finding the worlds of Dune, buzz around the new Thopter, worm riding, becoming Fade, a new set of threads, and you also get deeper into the desert, the sounds of Dune. So you get 8 features on the actual disc itself, and they're pretty good size special features, about 5 to 10 minutes for each one of those. And then if you want to download the digital code, you get a lot more special features. You get, let's see, 3, you get 8 new so there's 16 special features on here, featurettes. Now, a few of these are just like little info pieces on the actual houses themselves. There's 4 film books is what they call them. You get one for House Carino, you get one for the Reverend Mother, you get one for Water, you get one for Lisa Al-Jiab. And then you also get Inside Dune, the Spice Harvester Attack, Inside Dune, Gurney Halleck's Revenge, Inside Dune, the Fight for the Imperial Throne. So all those that I just mentioned are about 5 to 10 minute special features. Then you get all those little info pieces on the houses and the characters of the movie. And then you get an ensemble for ages, which is one that you want because this thing's like 22 minutes long. And it's very expansive, just talking to, it has all the cast in it, just talking about this movie. So there's a lot of great special features. It's just that only half of them are on the actual 4K disc itself, and the other half are locked on that digital code. So if you want to watch all the special features, you will have to download that digital code. It's pretty easy. You just get on the WB website and just punch the code in, and then you can choose to put it on Vudu, or I think there's another option. I put it on Vudu, but you can watch all the special features. It's just that I don't like the trends of having to watch special features on the digital code, and I get why they did it. Because this movie is already almost 3 hours long, and they already put a lot of special features on the actual disc itself. There probably wasn't any room, and they didn't want to risk compression or anything like that, so they probably fit as much as they could on there, and then they put the rest on a digital code. But my thing is maybe this was a release you should have put a Blu-ray in. It's all first world problems at the end of the day, right, guys? You're still getting it. You're still getting all the features. You just got to download the movie from that digital code. But there you have it, guys. That's my review for Dune Part 2. I think it's definitely a solid release. If you saw this in the theaters, you are going to be very happy watching this at home for sure, because the picture quality is outstanding. But of course, there's that issue with the IMAX, guys. There's that issue with the IMAX and the special features. I just don't like those being locked on a digital code. But besides that, guys, I can recommend this. I can recommend this for sure to purchase. I will link it down below in the description. And I don't know if the Steelbook's still available or not, but there was a Steelbook option to get this as well. Then there's a 2-movie 4K collection. There's, of course, a Blu-ray. I'll link all that down below in the description as well. But thank you all so much for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment down below your thoughts on Dune and this 4K release. Are you going to pick it up? Let me know in the comment section below. Turn on those bell notifications for all future videos, and follow me on all of my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.